Yesterday we had a Sharing the Dharma Day, and for those who have done retreats here or come to days like that, you know that we have discussions. And for me, those are really quite fruitful. Usually when we pose these questions to contemplate and reflect on the Dharma in terms of our life, generally I would say my reflections are kind of pale, maybe kind of superficial. They go so far, and then we get into the discussion with the group, and I have more time to think about things, and I have a lot more input from other people, and it helps me to reflect a lot more deeply and broadly. And so it's been over the years very helpful for my mind. And yesterday, in our sharing, I was so inspired by a person that we all know well here. She was sharing how when kind of things come up in her life, and she sits down at her altar and she pulls out the 37 practices of bodhisattvas, and she just uses that to think about a situation, to take complete responsibility and be honest and truthful inside of herself, to work with something and to get rid of any tendency to blame. And just her whole, the whole discussion was really inspiring. And for myself, I also sometimes use the 8 verses of thought transformation. 8 seems a little easier for my mind than 37, plus I have those memorized. And I have found sometimes that when I'm quite stirred up about something, I'm really kind of out to lunch about all 8 of them at once. It's kind of like a little barometer for my mind, like, how far out are you? How far back do you need to come? So I'm not that far out now, but one thing that a couple things came up for me yesterday and today I recognized some things quite clearly in my mind about these verses and how I'm working or not working with my mind. And one was around the media and the political debates and what we're hearing. And I realized that for the longest time I've been saying things to myself in a way that really wasn't healthy, and I started to recognize the impact it was having on me in a more general way. And so I have been thinking for a while that how would it be if I'm having a little bit of problems right now just hearing these things from afar. I'm not really at any of these rallies, or I don't really go to these things, and I'm just getting a little bit on the media of here and there. How is it that my mind, if it gets so disturbed, how would I ever be like the monk who was in the Tibetan prison who told His Holiness he was, being tortured and in prison for many, many, many years, and what was his big concern? What was his big worry? His worry was that he would lose his compassion. So I'm thinking, I might have a little ways to go here. So I have been thinking lately about equanimity, and then I came back to this verse that is one that I say often daily. This is the value, and that's kind of my point here, the value of consistently going back to things. We do prayers every day here, and then we have some time of silence. And for myself, when we do meals, a lot of times I say the first 2 of these verses to myself. So the first verse came to my mind very clearly with the thought of attaining awakening for the welfare of all beings who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. I will constantly practice holding them dear. And I realized that around some of the political stuff, my mind has not felt dear for months. I haven't even thought about it. I've just kind of been trying to understand what's going on in the country, but now I feel a great need to be a part of a movement of people who wish for the way that we talk to change in our country, and that starts with the way we think. And so as we were thinking about our ethics yesterday in the Sharing the Dharma Day, that was the main topic that we discussed, I thought, I have fallen in my ethics here. My sense of integrity about the values I want to live, even if I haven't said anything but one stock phrase that I've had from the very beginning. Even that the only thing I really have verbally said, that one thing is the thing that's kind of haunting me now, and I'm realizing I have to let go of that way of understanding things. I just have one like cartoon in my mind that I'm picturing, and that has to go because that's not in line with the ethics. And that kind of thinking will then go into my behavior. And then I was trying to put together, listening to people. Someone had recently said, I think that this discourse has affected me more generally, more broadly. And I was thinking, looking at my own mind, and I'd say, yeah, maybe that has, because I'm maybe letting my mind fall into a little more affliction than I might usually be comfortable with, right? Or even be able to recognize. So then another verse came up to me, and I just wanted to share this, because this is what I love about these Lojong teachings, these mind training teachings. They're exactly the opposite of what you want to do, but what's so amazing about them is that they're so practical because they work. And that's my point with this verse. It says, whenever I meet a person of bad nature who is overwhelmed by negative energy and intense suffering, I will hold such a rare one dear, as if I had found a precious treasure. So you imagine when someone comes on to you in a way that's disrespectful, with some of the things we've been hearing about how women have been treated and are treated. I've had that happen to me in my life too, and it's not been very pleasant. But my mind never, when somebody up close and personal and repeatedly does something kind of disrespectful towards me, the last thing I want to do is hold them dear, And I was thinking about this, this really works though. This is exactly what you need to do. If you meet a person, they say of bad nature, I would say that a person who has so much negativity and intense suffering that it's almost becoming their personality, it's becoming their script. That's what bad nature means to me, because by nature, we really aren't good or bad. We just have a lot of really ingrained habits. So if you meet someone who has a lot of really ingrained negative habits of speech, then actually it's completely disarming to interact with them in this way. This is exactly what they need. And that's quite clear to me that this will work, because many of the other things I might do from out of reactivity really haven't worked and don't work, and sometimes prolong things. So just really reaffirming the value of using some verses over and over, so that when things come up in your life, you can examine them with this light of wisdom to shed some light on your own places where we fall from our own integrity, really, our own values that we're trying to hold. So may we all do this, and through our doing this and valuing this, may we inspire others to do the same, as there are many people right now who are very on top of, this idea of public discourse needs to improve. So let's be a part of that.